Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Great.
You need a vote.
Oh,
All
all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Yes.
Just
A little wrench in the works there. Okay, so we might have a quick meeting tonight, we'll see.
You sound surprised.
I know.
The presentation is still the one that was in early May, right? Or is it press subsequent?
Yes, I'm gonna put that up right now. Oops, let me-
This is the next public presentation of this that's.
It's
probably
hopefully gonna be more detailed. Yes.
Okay. So,
Oh, what interesting.
oh, what happened?
They're so-called barefoot.
Okay, I think we keep,
Wonderful.
But
What do you
they
think?
don't
I just asked someone a question. I'm losing my mind.
Oh,
I took the picture and now what do?
It should
Go to
come up with
photos.
a.
It should come up.
Go to
it should
photos.
lead you to a web, no, it should.
No,
lead
it's
you to
not a
website.
photo.
But I
Yeah.
had to
No,
do
it's
it
not, I
several
know,
times.
I've done it 100 times, so
No,
for some
it
reason
didn't
right
take
now.
you to the,
So what's
to
the
the,
problem? It didn't
It's
take
been-
me anywhere.
no.
It's
Okay.
been difficult.
And it usually
Success
does.
rate is not assured
Right.
on this thing.
I've never had a problem before.
Okay, so I think you guys have all
They're so
had a
happy.
Okay,
chance
I'm taking
to,
the picture.
oops, don't do that.
Had a chance.
Okay.
Okay.
Do it.
I think you've had a chance to all look at
Sure,
this.
that,
Oh.
Oh, that's the one.
I thought I'd just run through
Thank
maybe
you.
some of
Sure.
the,
My point.
100 times.
yeah, some of the important slides.
I was,
I'm gonna assume that everyone's taken a quick look at this.
Yeah.
Is that
yeah,
fair? Okay.
welcoming
Which agency?
international guests.
This is the HPD.
Day
oh,
So this is
at
coming out
42nd
of,
Street
there's a whole
Club.
context.
that's great.
What they're
So the
going
goal is
to-
basically to
They-
address
To the what
the
you
housing
call it.
crisis,
The
but to do it equitably.
football game.
Yeah, exactly.
The context, so we all know everyone's rent burdened. Actually, these are important. Hold on. So this is segregation in our city.
Those are kind of amazing.
I know, right? This is, oops, rephrase me again.
That map also has really interesting density.
Yeah.
It showed you.
Staten Island and.
Yeah.
Staten Island seems to be devoid of people.
Oh, there we
Right.
go.
This is-
A lot of trees though.
Okay. So
Let's
this,
not knock Staten Island.
this is sort of the asthma, this is the health impacts of this
Ooh.
segregation,
Whoa.
which you see is dramatic. These are the principles that they're going to address.
How is it an impact of segregation as opposed to,
Historic.
yeah?
Pardon?
As opposed to historic redlining and whatever.
Yeah, I know, but why would segregation in and of itself?
Because you
cause-
get the socioeconomic, demographic characteristics
Well,
that go with it.
There's a correlation. but
Lack of
it's not a
healthcare.
cause. Segregation isn't the cause of the asthma.
No, but it's the
It's not-
things that accompany
Well,
it.
but I think a lot of the housing
Demographics.
has heating systems that aren't very good and there are. All sorts of other things that they're.
Also things like
Fewer trees.
the Cross Bronx, yeah, the fewer trees, Cross Bronx
Oh,
Expressway, and all
yeah.
the pollution from the trucks and the loitering cars.
Right.
Seema, could I just ask you this presentation, was this created entirely in the last 6 months by the Mamdani people, or is this
No.
a carryover from?
I think it's a carryover.
Former.
You're just-
Yeah.
There's 2023 statistics, which
Yeah.
were probably
Sorry, it's
from
gonna
twenty
change.
twenty.
Even so, creating the document.
Nobody says
In a
twenty
minute, it's going to
twenty-five.
update.
Yeah, but the source is 2023, which means
Right,
that is probably
but
twenty
that's-
twenty.
is this new?
So here's the
Yeah,
context,
this is- yeah.
right? So this has been a work in progress in process since 2020. 2023 was the passing of the Fair Housing Framework under
Mhm.
Adrian Adams. And that sort of laid out some of the initial, there are going to be 12 community districts
Right.
that are going to be responsible for more housing. Right now, well, I think we're going to get there. There are 12 community districts that have disproportionately contributed to new housing thus far, or in the past 5 years. And so what will the next 5 years look like? The plan itself, I believe the draft report is coming out. We're going to get
Right,
to a
it's on
slide.
schedule.
Yes, okay. The plan itself, I think, will come out this summer, but we'll get to the schedule in a second. So basically, this is what I think the report soon to come out should address. And it's going to be essentially, maybe quote is too strong a word, but a target for each community district with special focus on the 12 that are least contributing now. Sorry, here's. Crazy.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm late, but what's the third one, strategic equity? What is that framework? What is that?
It's an excellent question, where they have a few slides on it. It is not that clear. It's basically about what are a more deep dive into what are the obstacles to
Yeah, because I
creating.
tried to read
housing.
it online and I had difficulty, couldn't understand it, what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that that report will address that more directly because it's very
It's
big.
really, thank you, I'm
Yeah.
glad you feel this way.
Very big.
Okay,
Okay, rent burdened, I'm gonna zoom through this because we know this. Low vacancy rate, housing production is not kept up. This is part of that, a little more detail on what the housing needs assessment should show. And then it says about the equitable, okay, this is interesting, the equitable distribution of new housing. Right now, 12 community districts have contributed much more. You can see we're not one of them.
Is this big community? No, this looks like it's something small, the community district,
It is, it looks like,
council district,
it's
or
not
something,
council,
census designation, some sort.
yeah, maybe some census tract, I don't know.
It looks like the
No.
Upper West Side there is divided the way the census people divided
Yeah.
into the three areas.
Mhm.
The Upper
Right.
West
Yeah.
Side, the Lincoln Square, and then the Morningside Heights,
Right.
Yeah.
or whatever it's called, no,
Manhattan Valley,
Manhattan Valley.
yeah.
So it looks like those. So. Other than the fact that there are 12 areas that have produced more housing than everybody else, is there any analysis of the reasons why?
Well, one of them obviously is a change in zoning. Long Island City is obviously a
Right.
big one.
I mean, but
It's overly simplistic at the moment.
oh,
One of the problems with this whole thing
Mhm.
is that things could have happened 5 and 10 years ago in great numbers, and they're not gonna be included. It's like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Okay, and the best example of that is Manhattan Valley, which has loads of new housing over the years, but only a couple of things within the past year, and they're not gonna be included because it wasn't in the right time
but what
frame.
kind of zoning? It's not high zoning there. And that's,
I mean, we do get credit for a little bit of it, you can see in this. This is Manhattan Valley, basically, right?
Yeah,
So you see,
right, that's the affordable piece, but I mean,
Yeah.
if it's a question of, why does housing get built where it's built, it's not just what's the zoning, it's what is
Yeah.
the zoning relative to what is presently built there.
yes, understood, but the,
But we did the rezoning.
yes, we did in the southern part of our district, as you know. It went up and it can go up even more,
And we made the upper part not upzoned
right?
in order to maintain the housing, preserve the housing that was there and the economic, racial, ethnic mix.
And then we did two adjustments to that,
Right.
Yeah,
so
which
we-
were,
which were 106th Street and Upper 8th Street.
So what's interesting is if you look at the total units in new buildings, which is not related to affordability, the Upper West Side is broken into three. And Manhattan Valley is the lowest.
Yes.
The southern part is the highest, which is consistent with zoning changes. If you look at the affordable units, there are a couple of dark blue blocks close to Central Park in the middle north and the far north, so it's basically the opposite.
Well, the southern end reflects Riverside South and
Yeah.
Bleach
Right.
Waterline Square and all
Right.
those very tall buildings.
I mean, most of the additional new housing is about neighborhood rezonings.
is about what, I'm sorry?
Neighborhood rezonings.
Yeah.
that happen.
overlay though, for us of landmark districts
Mhm.
is huge, and I don't know how this
Oh.
plan is going to
Not only-
accommodate.
That's a good,
Not
very
only
good
landmark
point.
districts, but
Very good.
stream
point.
density and height to start with.
Right, so,
Not a lot
so
of space to build more.
and
So what were you
unless
saying?
you do something that is not currently permitted in a landmark district.
The only way to get more affordable housing than Unity Board 7 just up, so
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
that's
only
right.
way. So the question is, are we willing to,
But even if you upzone, where's the land?
keep crashing.
the land, well, there will be, my guess is that there will be, areas in Manhattan Valley where the owner may want to.
You mean their library?
Something like
See, let's
Story
continue.
Tower
Yeah.
on Sixth Amsterdam.
They have all-
Potential span.
Me, all the time.
Okay,
My best friend.
Me, it's my wife.
so this is the part that you were talking about, Ethel, which is
Yes.
the
May
obstacles.
I hear you a little bit? It's a little hard.
Oh,
Thank
sorry,
you.
this is
Thank
about
you.
the obstacles to.
Yes, please.
More equitable housing.
Roughly.
I didn't even understand the slide, to be honest, limited affordability areas. I don't know that, but it's,
What is the barrier in the limited
and I don't know why they're
affordability?
called that either. What makes them limitedly affordable?
Right, for Southern Staten Island, transit, single family, but
Well, Fresh Mills landfill is,
yeah,
But there are also single family zoning.
honestly, this just looks like it's. The inner areas that are blue are expensive. And the outer areas that are blue are single family.
In general, yes.
Yeah,
So weird.
That's not even necessarily expensive.
for Manhattan, I think it
For
is.
Manhattan.
I think that that's a pretty good judge of Manhattan and Brooklyn in terms of the highest value. Dense neighborhoods, back the.
Is that me?
East side.
For the most
Like,
expensive neighborhoods.
Like Chelsea.
What about us?
Yeah, we're usually.
I don't think we're the richest part of Manhattan. I mean, we have Upper East Side and like the
Tribeca.
west side of
No,
downtown.
no, no,
We're not inaccessible.
Right. We've more transit.
I don't know why they use language like this,
I know.
why they can't speak English,
Right.
you know?
Anyway, some of the next one looked intriguing. This
Yeah.
one.
It's colorful.
They're trying to avoid,
This is probably-
word, you know.
Offensive.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what
words
are
that-
the examples?
You know, right?
What
Clear words
examples
that-
are they? What are they avoiding? The they?
Displacement sounds
You know,
like,
they don't wanna say poor people, rich people.
Oh, yeah.
They-
Right.
they
and I
don't wanna
think,
say,
yeah.
I think just
you know,
risk
middle income
displacement
people,
risk.
they wanna talk in such watered down
Yeah.
language. that-
Euphemism.
they-
But
Yeah,
that's-
there's meaningless.
But I think displacement risk means you build some new, bigger things and you displace people who already.
Yeah, but.
yes, we'd be a different
I-
high.
this
The
speaks
to
areas
areas
we're
that are
building in are,
Yeah.
Well,
They should have a
yeah,
glossary.
I'm assuming the report will, right?
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, the report will
Pressure
explain
to
what
leave
these
their
terms
home
are.
or neighborhood
This
due to
PowerPoint
eviction,
doesn't.
unaffordable housing prices, or poor quality housing.
but
Those are different things. Unaffordability would be the building new expensive things. Poor quality housing would be the not building new expensive things. And eviction could be a mix of those things.
I mean, it's sort of contradictory because it's.
So
Measuring totally different things.
some of this is gentrification of risk, and some of it is.
And also,
Totally
it's
different.
interesting that we are shown in general as very low
opposite.
risk, which
Right.
could be because we have so many landmark districts that the possibility of displacement with much bigger buildings is very low. But it looks like.
What was the last part of what you said?
I said, we're showing is very low risk of displacement, we're light color,
Yeah.
which may be because we have so many donuts and landmark districts,
Mhm.
not just donuts, but landmark districts that are, development is constrained. So the chance of displacement
Mhm.
of people living there with larger developments, these people being bought out is constrained by the landmark.
Yeah.
But so much of what we're saying is our speculation.
Yeah, we're making it up.
But it means, it sounds like.
No, I don't.
And then usually their reports though are
And that may be
pretty.
true, but there's also the phenomenon of,
Fiction.
brownstones that house
Well, I
ten
don't.
families.
Yeah.
What's
Being
more
bought
affordable
and
housing?
turned
You're
into
right
single
about that.
family.
Would help.
We
Residence.
get a
Well,
form
you
every
say-
month.
But they have.
I was just saying, I usually the report will fill in the gaps that we're identifying here, right? It'll explain the terminology and also provide
Yeah,
the
it's just-
data.
Right. Well, the
Behind-
displacement risk is like
What they need,
symptom, not a cause.
what they need to do is
Yeah.
Right.
start to overlay some of these maps and show
Yeah.
the individuals together, individual aspects together and then overlay them. Because this one contradicts another map as to where the affordable housing is being built, the displacement risk is also shown as high. But you would provide to build affordable housing is to build it, not to not build it because you're gonna displace somebody.
Could I'm sorry, yeah,
Um,
the two, please, and I will be corrected, the two biggest, tallest buildings are now either well underway or about to be, and that is within the southern part of our district.
66th Street.
Uh,
Yeah.
and they are replacing, and certainly now, low-rise studios, other kinds of
commercial.
use,
Commercial.
and commercial,
Right.
I was about to say, and as adjacent to Lincoln Center and so on, okay. And then a second thing that has been proposed, and please correct me if it's in fact been implemented, but we were dealing with it. And that is in the districts where, let's say, the lower rise districts and brownstone district and a certain, that what can you build in the back of your building of, 3 stories or whatever. And please correct me, we discussed the proposal from city planning to allow more bulk in the
rear.
backyard, and in other words, change what were the particular beliefs of what was this great housing. But okay, it would appear from the little knowledge that we have that the expansion into the backyard as permitted legally has come for the most part in buildings that house wealthier people, and that the expansion is not necessarily affordable housing, but it's something else. So that's an example. So what I see now for us to begin to understand is the tallest buildings, the big glass ones, have not even been proposing affordable housing within their building and so on. So it's not been a wonderful big thing to
Well,
happen.
these targets are not just affordable housing, it's also market rate housing.
I appreciate, that's the point,
Yeah.
but I would just emphasize
I mean, it
that.
seems, it just, common sense dictates that if the entire city were upzoned to some extent, so that developers could build taller, bulkier buildings that would produce more apartments, not necessarily affordable, but that could be built in as a mandatory. But, without upzoning, this city is at its maximum.
Well, has anybody driven up the Major Deegan and looked over at Enwood from the
Sure.
Bronx?
Sure.
Which one? What?
Yeah.
Drive up the Major Deegan,
Yeah,
go past
Express.
Yes.
Enwood,
right.
and you see a different world there that I'm not so sure a lot of people necessarily are entirely pleased with. I know the outgoing land use chair of that committee, and I was probably an architect. And,
Are you saying there's a lot of new?
sorry, yeah, I mean, they didn't really want that, and the implications of what they got produced huge amounts of housing, but
That's the issue, the only issue. All this stuff is, garbage.
well,
The only issue is, are we willing to give up, the fantasy that low-rise buildings are somehow more
Right.
attractive in order to accommodate more housing? If we're not, there won't be
Well,
more
they had-
housing. If we are, they can be.
Inwood had a large area that was industrial, so,
Yeah,
and that
okay.
was changed.
That
Yes.
changed.
Well, that's,
Like
Yeah.
Long Island City.
Right, if you
Yes.
build housing in an industrial area, you're not displacing anything.
Yeah.
We have to
Yes.
change the industrial zone.
Look, there are
and count them
places,
as
there are
jobs.
places in Red Hook that have.
In which case, then you have to create
Just
affordable
change-
housing for people who lost their jobs.
Just altering the
They
zoning.
lost them before anyway.
I don't think there's that much industry left in New York.
Sorry?
I don't think there's that many industrial jobs
Right.
left in New York.
Industrial jobs are basically service jobs. If you're a distribution warehouse, if you are a construction company.
Right, but
if
the
you're-
value of the land at this point
Well,
is
that's-
not.
Well, if you upzone it, the value of the land multiplies so many times, you might not actually build affordable housing.
But again, I
Well, but
think,
you can make
I
it
think this,
mandatory.
I agree with this point, is we are, whether we want to or not, we're not really discussing affordable housing in a big document. I think that's kind of where we've gone to.
Yeah.
It is about building housing.
Yeah.
We can argue why they
Own
be
housing.
a question. That's, maybe a more interesting question.
Can we,
for us.
can we continue and then that's more?
Yeah, so this is, I think this is the bulk of our conversation, which is, this is the schedule.
You know, you
So-
see, we're in that green period, and we're almost halfway through,
No report yet,
yeah.
right, so it's coming,
Well, the end of July.
Presumably the last day of
Somewhere.
July is when it's
Yeah.
coming out.
Briefing is somewhere in the near future,
right,
And then the public briefings are going to occur.
just like the first public briefing.
During July and August.
Yeah, so
And
convenient.
you're
Yes,
you're
this is-
notably
This
attentive
is why I was
to.
rather alarmed when I.
The
was sitting
comment
there on
period is so
I-95 looking at
conveniently
this thing.
August.
Well, for
They
one thing,
said-
one thing we can do positively is to let HPD know that we do not want a briefing until September.
Let me hear you.
so they
Say it
said,
again.
this question came up in
We don't
the,
want a briefing until
in
September.
the first.
Oh,
briefing.
yes.
In the public briefing number one, this question came up, which is, hey, you're sort of bypassing all the community boards with your
That
timeline.
was actually my question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
Absolutely. Oh, that was your question.
It was my
Yeah.
Oh, I
question.
didn't know
That might
that.
not be a
Well done.
coincidence.
So what they
Yeah.
said is, their answer to that is that they are trying to hit a legislative deadline in September, and that's why.
ah,
Well, we
Sure.
can't,
yeah.
that period.
Yeah.
There's,
Why is
there's
there a
no
legislative
urgency,
deadline?
there's no urgency to it.
What is a legislative deadline? What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I think just stamping our foot is not the answer. here.
Right.
I think what we have to do is to figure out a way without having public meetings
Yeah.
where we can provide some feedback, some response, to a document that's going to be tremendously important for our future. And I don't know how to do that. I mean,
Well-
maybe we schedule some kind of meeting and we could write a letter that's from the committee that would get passed later on
Yes.
by the full board.
Because
If they want buy-in, they're not gonna get it by having a meeting in July. It's counterproductive for them.
But I think.
But the problem is, I
I
think
think
if
we
we
need to
don't,
be on the record.
if we don't get our.
But are you
comments in-
saying?
They may let go screw you.
SEMA, what is that?
If we don't get our comments in August, then we are missing a chance to affect the final report.
Well,
And
Really?
that's the concern.
Yeah,
Well, the
yes,
final report
That
release
is
is
the
in
good
September.
number. That's what we're,
So what about all these questions people have been raising about what does this slide mean? What does this slide mean?
yeah,
Is there-
presumably the
No, no.
report that's coming
No,
out.
no, I know,
should
but
address
is there,
that.
is there a way we could sooner rather than later raise some of these questions that we don't even understand what we're
Have-
talking about because your definitions are not.
They're gonna say, wait for the report.
Yeah.
And it'll all be explained in the
You know,
report.
actually,
And-
The report's coming so close to the end of.
Yeah, no, it's gonna come in July and then they want comments
Is
in
there
August.
something we could do to figure
Yes.
out a date in the summer,
Yes,
like end of July, beginning of August, something like that? Where we could get a quorum of the committee together, and
Correct.
everybody else feeds it through.
Do we know when
emails
the
and-
hearings are going to be?
We could go to the southern France.
Do we know when their briefings are?
Everybody's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Are there dates?
No,
Briefings in July, what are office hours?
Seema,
I
is there
think
any example of, in all of this, of when they say there will be public hearings? That
So
we
the-
can talk, understand, because then that develops the tactics.
That's
that
right.
you can do, which I believe you are saying, and I welcome that, and I think there are some ways
So,
to do it.
there is a public briefing in July.
Public
Gotcha.
briefing is the word, not hearing.
It's not a hearing, it's a briefing.
I mean, excuse me, briefing.
That's like,
please.
they tell us, but they don't want to
Yes.
listen.
But they
Yeah,
are
it's gonna be brief.
office hours, which were explained as maybe they are available to attend a meeting or zoom in or something.
Or we could do it with, as a representative people are here,
That's what I'm saying.
and do that and say that if everybody can't be like, if we have 6 people and we want to talk with the appropriate people there, then we will do it online, but it will all be done clearly and representatively. We will have questions and do that, because I think we have to get something
I
in
think if we
July.
have 8, if we have 8 people who can attend, right? we're
Well,
down to 15.
I can
Yeah.
attend in
Problem,
July,
we got a
but not the
quorum.
first one.
If you're
Yeah.
one of the 12
Second week in August?
identified
Be back,
community
I'm
board.
going to Ireland. I will be back on the 13th or something like that.
Okay, I'm giving you, are you reading all of
But
Angela's ashes?
This chart here is
It's not
just as
good.
confusing as the rest of it.
I mean,
Yes,
'cause
It really
everything
is.
You know, briefing, which is an hour presumably is
It's
a month, yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's confusing, sure.
what we wanted, there's no point in having a public briefing without the draft report.
Yes.
Right.
Right,
Absolutely.
it
So
shouldn't,
maybe
that
our
far
message to
clear.
them should be, please let us know when you expect the draft report, and please schedule us for a briefing immediately after the release of the report.
No,
in
this
July.
week.
A week.
Well, right,
Give us a
right,
chance
within
to
a
look
few
at the
days.
report.
Sorry, I'm
But
confused.
also-
This isn't the draft report?
No,
No, that's
no.
just a,
Okay.
Some
But
kind
yeah,
of
thank you.
photo introduction.
This is the old-
This is the
You have to
introduction.
This is the
you have to remember,
pre-draft.
there are gonna be a dozen community boards who are gonna be jumping up and down about this, either positively or negatively. It may or may not be us. So that half a dozen people, there's already 72 people.
Well, but if we get
But I feel like
our,
there'll be less just because.
if we
Oh,
get our
that's the
request,
plan.
if we get a request in early, maybe we'll get.
Yeah, and we should, if we can, difficult as July and August is, excuse me, is that we identify among us here, let's say, I'm saying 5 people.
We need a,
You absolutely need 8, but why?
we need a quorum that can vote
At least of the committee,
of the
right?
committee.
I was just seeking to get more information back and forth and questions in July.
But
And
we
get
need
it
to do
through.
it in a formal way.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do that, but we just don't know when in July that
Exactly.
report.
would
is
it,
gonna be.
yeah, would it
So
make
we
sense
at
to
least
do
have
it when the
our-
Do we
report?
have a contact
out?
person?
I
think this is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, we
Do it when the report comes out.
That's it, right.
Right, no, that's,
Okay.
which is what, but I think the report will come out the last day of July.
Maybe.
That would be my
You
guess.
do think
That is
why?
very.
Because
very
that's their
reasonable.
schedule and it's
That's-
not going to be
Well,
in
do we have a-
advance unless the last day of July is,
So the first week of August, we
Do
should
we
ask
have
for.
a contact?
that would be a
person
guess.
at HPD?
I'm sure Jesse does, yes.
We also.
Let's
in
find
city-
out when they
Do we
expect the
have
report,
Edith?
and how soon after the
Oh,
report
cool.
comes out, we can have a briefing.
Yes.
At the end of July.
We have 7 new
Yeah.
members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have 7 new members of CB7, and it may be that the composition of our committee may change over this.
I think they were already signed.
Oh, maybe they
We're
are.
not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The what?
We
No,
haven't
I
been
haven't been
assigned.
any assignment.
We have.
Well, you've just,
I don't
just
think
people have
it's
expanded one of them.
Yeah.
1 out of 7 though.
Let's
Well,
take that moment.
And I
to
know
welcome
Winston is
Susan
also.
Yes.
To our committee,
Yes.
hopefully.
Sorry?
Welcome.
Oh,
We're welcoming
thank you.
To our committee.
Thank you.
We probably should have done
Say
that.
that was so good, I'm sorry.
Many things.
Yeah, many things, but.
No, I
can
just,
hear-
it's very hard to either get a briefing or even have an not intelligent conversation, but a real conversation about the details until the report comes out and we can
Uh-huh.
read it and see, this PowerPoint is just a
Mhm.
summary of things that are unexplained.
We could
We
have
get 15 minutes
communication
to
with
do that,
some
so
people
far.
at city planning and
If-
ask them
I can
quietly.
ask them when it's coming out. I mean, I'm
It's not
happy
city
to
planning.
do that.
But it's actually coming from
But
HPD.
yeah, but
Oh,
it's city
the
planning is
HPD?
gonna be working on it.
Yeah, it's
with
being led by
HPD.
HPD. I'm sure city planning is,
It's
Yeah, but
gotta
they're
be
not gonna be
city-
involved.
but
at
it's
this-
only HPD right now.
At this stage, they're not.
HPD will be the lead, but city planning will be working with them.
Well, that's hard to take.
So could we maybe take out our calendars and look at August? Perhaps maybe mid-August? This is thinking that, let's say the report comes out in July 31st or 30th, and then,
Anytime from the 15th on is fine.
What did you say, please?
I'm gonna be out of town from the 3rd to the 14th.
Of August?
Yeah.
should we try for our usual Wednesday, like maybe Wednesday,
Yeah.
August 19th?
Perfect.
Wonderful.
August 19th?
No?
What?
Well, what is the, no?
I don't know.
Somebody's
What day of the day we normally meet?
That is our usual meeting date.
Oh.
Not that that means anything in August, but
But it helps.
it's, yeah, right.
I just got,
Hopefully you just.
I just
have that
got
in your
a
calendar
note
waiting.
that I can
Yeah,
get a
that's good.
room. I get a room at Tanglewood between the 17th and the
So,
19th.
you think
Okay.
a majority of us here can make August 19th?
Raise your hand if you can.
What's that?
Raise your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Please, raise your hands.
Maybe. I don't
What do you
know.
see, you think?
One, two,
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That was the
that's sort of
only
like trying
time
to
they
decide
said,
stuff.
because I
Nine.
said,
Okay.
I will not share a
None,
room.
okay, so, but 9 is for, so, yeah, if we can actually have 9
We're
people
going
here in
this-
person,
this
other
Friday,
people welcome to Zoom in.
Maui, Marcellus.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Can she do it?
Wow, we've crashed again.
When I go
Sorry.
to.
Plus, there are people who
Saturday.
aren't here. who might
Friday,
be able
this
to-
Friday.
Yeah,
I'm coming with.
We're
Okay,
gonna see,
so-
Yeah.
so we will though
I'm
follow up
longing for.
with HPD on when, tell me the question.
Hello,
when-
Polly.
Hey, Polly.
Hello, everyone. I raised my hand for August 19th.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Okay.
think we keep freezing and crashing, apologies.
I
Okay,
mean, we could let them know that we're willing to meet in July if the port's ready.
But.
Right.
No,
Why don't we
no,
do this?
no,
Why
no,
don't we
no.
ask
What?
them, the questions are, when is the draft report planned to be issued?
Right.
When is the public briefing? And then can we schedule our briefing to our committee?
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
It'll be an Augusta occasion. It'll be an Augusta occasion.
Oh, God.
July.
Of course, the question for us is, how many of us have actually worked inside government and how many of us have worked with these agencies?
Yeah.
on the public sector? And I think that covers probably
Everyone?
a bunch of us here. So we know what,
I haven't worked in government since 1968.
You're working in government right now? Here?
Yes.
Call this work?
Do you call this
When
government?
I, when I had an office in the World Trade Center and had to be that was my one time, and then that was the beginnings of, a sabotage that occurred before the horror there, and so I always remember,
That was a long time.
well, that's when I was working there, that they said I had to do it.
But you
And
weren't the target of sabotage.
You never know.
So our next item was supposed to be block by block, but that is a massive report. That's the Mamdani report. I mean, I'll just share for you the
Um,
cover of it.
it's a big catalog of any thought that anybody's ever had.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's not a plan.
Everything that's ever been done and ever will be done.
And then,
Yeah.
and then I think a lot of the things in there are presented as new ideas when they're actually have been done before.
Completed, ho ho,
There are no new ideas.
yeah.
Sorry?
There are no new ideas.
Well, that's. you're
King
sort of
Solomon
right.
said there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we know he was lazy.
So-
No, it's a new idea.
There we go.
Find the funding.
So
This is not a good, yeah, block by block.
is this to say that we don't want to discuss this at a future meeting? This is just to give you a sense of the contents.
Didn't the mayor just
Oh, the
appoint a
letters
new
were-
person? Another important today. Yes,
As well.
to be, God, it's right, it was in the New York Times, I've got to get it,
Oh.
but.
Okay, no,
um,
I missed that. So perhaps for a future meeting? Sure.
And one of the interesting things about it is there are a lot of things that are implied, but unless you're really deeply into the issue, you don't know that there are things that are implied in the report.
So I read the NYCHA section and I was surprised by it. It's really
You were?
a wholesale embrace of privatization. Like
Yeah.
his main strategy with NYCHA is rat
Oh, really?
pack. Seems like it.
And it's rejected by our largest
Yeah.
NYCHA development district rejects it.
They did
So
already?
There's no voting for it. or-
Right,
and
I know.
You're just thrown into it when they decide you're ready for it. So they haven't yet done in our district, they focused on the sort of non-campus
Right,
branches, but
right.
coming down the line at some point, Amsterdam houses, Amsterdam edition, Douglas edition. those
Sure, I
are-
mean, as long as I've been on, there've been complaints about how NYCHA runs those houses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Right, so as soon as somebody says, well, let's privatize it, everybody's against that,
No, that's true.
you know, so what are they, what? We
maybe
should,
they want.
There's a middle ground,
you know.
middle ground
What?
of management, resident, resident management is the middle ground.
Yeah,
And that's what's going on at Douglas right
well,
now.
but. you
At
know,
Douglas, yeah.
Maybe that's something we ought to focus on.
Yeah, I think,
that is good.
yeah,
How's
Yeah.
it working at Douglas?
it's beginning to work well.
It's a
Okay,
relatively
but
new thing.
there are a lot of difficult things
Cause that.
in dealing with the city
That would
initially.
cure a vacancy rate. I think probably more vacancies in our NYCHA housing than there are opportunities for affordable housing anywhere else in the district.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of that,
Polly's got her hand up.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Seema, I didn't get a chance to read that. What page in that block by block report kind of focuses on NYCHA?
There's a
So-
chapter.
Yeah, let me share my screen. I'll show you the chapter.
All right, what's the chapter page or the chapter?
41. It's called Securing.
41?
Yeah,
Hey.
Okay,
page 41.
41? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Ah,
And that report was generated by city planning
No, it's by the mayor.
or by the mayor? Okay,
Yeah, it came from the mayor and the deputy mayor, Leila Borzog.
okay.
Just read one of the titles there, and they think that they assume that Faircloth is going to go by.
Is that
Yep.
report online, Seema?
Yeah, I can send it to you, Polly.
I thank you.
Yeah,
Faircloth
absolutely.
amendment is gonna suddenly disappear.
what is it?
What is the Fairclough amendment? Sorry.
It limits the number of, it really limits federal funding for public housing to no new units, and this was passed during the early Clinton years.
Mhm,
Not necessarily by Clinton, by a guy named Faircloth,
mhm.
which
You vote for someone named Faircloth?
It was an
Well,
extremely
that's not a
right-wing
great name,
Republican
neither is
from
Faircloth.
North Carolina. He was a very right-wing Republican from North Carolina.
There you go.
Locke Faircloth.
I'm shocked.
was his name, yeah.
So
They had
next,
nice clothing.
next item, maybe we'll chunk up the block by block report and try to address what's interesting at future meetings.
I think that's something for everybody to read over the summer.
Yeah.
Summer
If
homework.
you're stuck in an airport for 2
Oh,
days.
it's not a
Or if you
beach
have
reading?
insomnia.
I've read it.
Our next thing is, so I think that we as a committee should put forward a proposal or two for the fund for the City of New York Community Planning Fellow. We did put one in last year for the SRO project. We got not rejected, we did not get
Did
accepted,
not get accepted.
yes. But HHS did get accepted, and I think their project happened.
Mhm.
She was wonderful.
Oh, great.
Did she work well? But they
Wonderful.
mostly haven't, when I was asked to supervise it.
She was really good.
That's
And
great.
she came up with a final product.
Very good.
That was very good. Did you see her final
Yes,
report?
yes.
It's really good. She worked hard.
So I would suggest that we put in, because, so I don't know if you paid attention, but in the full board email, there's a form that Jesse created for us to submit an idea that would then go, I
Yeah.
guess, to steering or executive committee, something like that, to, we can only put in, I think, one or two proposals as a community board. Ideas that we had, one is potentially still SRO project, depending on where we have a lovely community volunteer, Sven Patzer, who's done a huge amount of data analysis. We have a summer intern from high school. I keep losing it. Summer intern from high school that also will be joining us for, I think, the month of August, pushing forward hopefully the policy side of SRO. Depending on where we end up, we might still have need for a little bit of work there. Or another idea was, or is, looking at rent regulated housing in our district over time. And potentially policy implications of that.
I don't understand what that means.
Looking
May I,
What we've lost, what we've
Oh.
gained.
may I ask, when you mentioned, excuse me, the SRO study? We did do the biggest SRO study in detail. And a number of years ago, that at least it's a takeoff point. I mean, it was much heralded.
No, absolutely.
We,
It's-
you know, so we
updated.
really have to
Exactly.
Yeah, we can build on that because it was
That's
very
what
big.
Sven has done.
Yeah.
He did start with.
Well,
Yes, we've had I think it's a 2010 study and a 2022 study, so we
yeah,
are
well,
building
the
on
one
those two.
that I was that I did do for the board and all was earlier than that, but it was also involved developers and so on. I mean, you can get the copy of it. It was very
I don't
big.
have a copy of that one, so. if you
Okay,
have that-
I'll get it. I mean, because
be
it was
great.
a big deal,
Absolutely.
sponsored by the legislature and I think Jerry Nadler and all, and it was a huge thing.
Yeah,
Or
so
I
please send
find
it.
it.
It would be, the longer we go back, the
Yeah,
better, the more compelling the
absolutely.
case we make.
Yeah.
So absolutely, we'd love to have that.
But what would be the end result? Once we get all this information, what?
So we have to pick a lane of, I think, which of those studies.
No, but let's say,
do another one.
we do the SROs.
Yeah,
Right.
What
What's the
will
object?
come of it?
I think our goal is so City of Yes took away the zoning restriction for new SROs.
Yeah,
But there still exist other places in multiple dwelling law, I think in certain codes that prohibit new SROs and a few other areas in legislation that get in the way of this as a form of housing that it's really important to our district, has been historically. So part of it would be arming our electeds with the information that they need to try to change that.
Isn't that
And
something
developing an advocacy
that
roadmap
their,
for that.
their staff are a lot more appropriate and better to do than us to figure it out?
I mean, that would be great, but I don't see anyone doing that now.
And the other issue is, which we're having with SROs now,
yeah,
that exists, is if they were SROs for the most part with at a maximum of 1-to-3 ratio between restrooms and residents, and as much as 12. And so people, even in Euclid Hall, who desperately need housing, will not take a room because they have to share
Mm.
the restrooms with a few other people.
yeah,
And even though they need the housing,
yeah.
they're coming in, they're rejecting it.
Hmm.
And it's not uncommon.
Is there a market for
Yes.
SRO?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Are landlords, are developers likely to develop
And-
SRO?
I want to
I
just,
know that tenants would.
Right.
I just want to say, we're doing many of the rooms, redesigning many of the rooms now.
Mm.
And got permission from HPD and all the agencies because they saw what was happening.
Right.
But it's very expensive.
Also, I
Well,
think,
they-
But
everything
add
has to be
bathrooms,
handicap accessible.
That too.
So the bathrooms are larger than the rooms.
And let's,
Oh, wow.
Fortune Society is doing that on 97th Street.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the,
And we had somebody in here recently who was proposing that and found out that the building was not stabilized.
Yeah.
Good homework.
what distinguishes a private bathroom SRO from a small studio? Is it just?
oh, there is no such,
Usually the
That's
size,
the only thing?
usually the
It's
size.
usually a shared bathroom and or shared
Right.
kitchen.
Yeah,
yeah, it's shared. but-
So you're gonna have one bathroom
that's
for
one of the
each.
things.
Curiously, that's
No.
that's what people are requesting.
Yeah,
and
but it's not
insisting
gonna
on.
happen. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I think
1 to 2 is better, but people just not responding, and they need housing desperately.
Yeah,
so not that.
On 86 and Broadway.
right.
There's there's a new, existing building code that's effective at the end of 27, and it's 600 pages long. As an interest to see if things changed in that. But there's, when they put out a new code, there's usually a period of technical, revisions and adjustments for things that people missed along the way, so if anybody has some time after reading the 122 pages of block by block, read, which I think
Is that
I
online
skimmed.
someplace?
What?
It's online someplace? The
Yeah, it's
draft
on the building
code?
department website,
Okay.
and
It's not redlined, I assume,
it's on,
so you can just see what's added.
what's added and actually, it's not added, it's deleted, because it's a whole new code.
Yeah.
It's based on the International Building Code Council model code. The state has had this code for years. But it was adapted to New York City and was meant to get rid of the multiple dwelling law. It's really was what its intent was. That was one of the big intents.
How does it do that though? Because it's a.
Sorry?
Multiple dwelling law is a state law, right? So-
Right, and the legislature gave them the ability to do that.
Oh, so this overrides multiple
It
dwelling law?
replaces New York City,
Wow.
somewhere back in the deep depths of the teens. I spent a couple months or years working on it, but it doesn't look anything like whatever I've worked on. So I would have to read all 600 pages to have any idea.
Aren't you volunteering to do that?
And summarize it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you could get AI to summarize it for us.
You know what? I'm sure they're going to
You
have,
could.
they actually have some training sessions on it, but it doesn't go into depth on the issues that apply to housing, because they were applying. There's a whole bunch of online seminars that apply on broad scope issues. How do you get the hundreds of pages down to 6 hours of training?
The FP64 supercomputer,
Sorry,
the FP64 supercomputer with nodes in 17 areas of the country will be precise, not just quick, not as
my
quick,
God.
but precise. So maybe it'll come out in a week or so.
AI code summaries are great.
Please.
you know what? Nobody in this
I
room
was at a
should
seminar.
read AI
Right.
No
based on their
kidding.
own name, because as anybody I know who's done that disagrees with what AI describes them as.
I just,
Oh, didn't
if I
even
could just
do
throw in
that. Wow,
how
Nice.
that
Stay with-
AI is
Yeah.
generally very quick.
Yeah.
And not precise. One example was, it asked everybody, how many R's are in strawberry? Everyone said 3. But AI said 2.
And AI.
And that was the best example
So
of
we've been wrong all
being
the time.
imprecise.
No, AI.
And there's a lawyer who used AI
Oh, there's
conditions
several.
and got in a lot of
There's
trouble.
Oh,
several.
yeah,
Lots
yeah,
of
yeah.
lawyers
Many,
that have
many,
done that.
many.
Become an
Right.
epidemic.
Examples,
Yes,
yeah.
it is
Cases
now.
That don't exist.
Exactly.
Great, oh, yeah.
Many.
So just getting back to
So, I'm sorry.
Committee business?
So what do we think about those proposals, fleshing out those proposals? Would you like to take a look at a brief draft and then we can-
About hiring, about selecting.
a proposal that we would put forward to I think it's the full board, but maybe the executive
I
committee or
think it's the
steering,
executive
the
committee,
executive committee.
because they have to do it in August.
Right,
to make
So
the
they are
decision.
charged with picking one or two
What was your
proposals.
suggestion other than an SRO update?
The rent regulated apartments, looking at the change, that's a much bigger
I think the
project. So I
executive
think
committee
maybe
meeting
I don't know
is
if it
on the
is.
29th of this
The
month.
what?
Say
The executive committee meeting this month is on the 29th. So if we have something by then, we can,
July,
June,
June, oh gosh, I'm sorry.
So what do you think about us putting forward? Are there other ideas for projects? What,
But do you want to still include SROs as a topic?
so I think it depends on what progress we make with the current volunteer and the intern. We might, I mean, if the stars align, we might not need any further resources and we'll.
Yeah, because
we'll
I
hit the ground
I
running.
could at least, I think the original Great Big Study was very important. We also did a whole bunch of, I mean, I walked into the SROs that nobody had ever done it before. And that drove everybody crazy, but it was the most, the best way to really get insights and really begin to work
Yeah.
at it, that kind of thing.
We would
The
love
value,
that.
the value of the SRO study, if we can come up with recommendations.
Yeah,
We can bring them to legislators.
Yes.
Yes.
And
That's
and
the goal.
advocate for them. That's
Right.
something we can get.
But we may be able to get through that this summer with the people we have now on board.
Mhm.
But that's what we're hoping, like some kind of
But then-
roadmap for like an advocacy
oh, they can
roadmap.
do other things too.
But I think the alternative that Seema has mentioned, which is this notion of rent, stabilized rent
Regulation.
Yeah,
regulated.
that's very different than the SROs,
And
but
I think-
very
I think
hard.
That one is something we have done very little work on.
Yes,
And maybe my
Very
view would
hard.
be that I would vote for that one.
I would too, I think that
The red regulated.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would it be?
I mean, I think the first, what I think we'd love the first bunch of work to be is more of a data analysis and a
Mhm.
mapping
Yeah.
of what does that look like over time,
Mhm.
using probably census
Yeah,
data, HPD and
I'm not
DOF.
so sure that there's been, I mean, there was, at one point, you know, they were being converted, at an enormous rate.
Yeah,
I think since the change in the law, has slowed, if not stopped.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that it's still the same problem that it was 10 years ago.
Oh, sure,
I think we-
2023 or whenever it was.
A
with all
lot
of those
of rent
state-
regulated apartments.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them that were rent regulated reached a certain
But-
point.
but
like
not
Virgin
recently.
Willis.
That stopped
That's-
in 2019.
That was, yeah, exactly. That problem, I think, was more or less solved, except, if you're always gonna have a dishonest landlord or something. But I
I mean,
don't,
part of it could be, preservation efforts, right? Knowing where our rent stabilized units are, getting the word out to tenants, because not half the time, but a significant portion of tenants don't even know that they might be in rent regulated.
There's a certain regulation that requires that notice to be posted in a public area.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
so it was added in the
Oh,
last
there
year or
is, there
so.
is a website you can go
Yeah,
to. I've
that's
done
what I
it
know
for people
about.
in my building. And they said, I think this was rent stabilized, but it's now 4 times what it was before. And I said, okay, let's go on the website. And we found that it was rent stabilized and that was violated repeatedly and
Right.
reported.
I think the SRO may be more fertile,
I'm sorry.
Maybe what?
maybe a more fertile
Yeah,
area.
there's a lot, yeah.
Or by the same token, the new building at, I would suspect it's a new building at 96th
Got it.
and has 1 unit.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, that
Yeah,
one,
that
of
one.
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll get caught.
That was a Gary Barnett.
Yeah.
The lawyer who did all that would be off the record, happy to talk to people about managing all of that,
For a fee.
I guess.
So should we work on SROs then? What is the feeling of?
What are the other, what's the, you had a third?
The other thing we thought about was the rent regulated, if there could be other
I think Both of
ideas.
them are interesting, so I
Yeah.
don't think we'd go wrong with either one of them, and then there's a lot. And they're juicy.
Should we put both in for now and say that
You
we'll
we
know
can try, well,
better?
why don't we read
August.
each possible draft, if it gets, and then decide. I think we could do each, send two in, I think,
Well, my idea would be,
if we have the ability here.
yeah, what do you think about, my proposal would be to send in two to our executive committee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And by
are
then,
unlikely
we
to
hopefully
Fair
know
enough.
more about
Fair
where we
enough,
are,
yeah.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then from there,
yeah.
we can decide.
My-
And I'll-
My preference would be to have the transportation committee.
Never.
Here's what I
Wait,
here's what I would
what?
propose for them, which would be to have somebody check the statistics that have been brought to our meetings
Completely, you are correct.
by alternative, whatever.
All
It's-
all types of,
Alternatives?
not just that.
It's-
but all the
Because I've
subgroups.
never trusted those stats.
With good reason.
I agree with you.
Many of them are from the Department of
So,
Transportation, but.
as a member of the
Absolutely.
executive committee, I'm gonna vote for the
Many of them are from the
transportation.
Department
If
of
they
Transportation.
would never ask for that.
No.
No,
I
they
would
never would
suspect
ask.
that
Maybe
the
we
ones
should.
related to accidents with cars are pretty accurate, but I think the ones related to bicycle and e-bikes are not, because they're not
Because you don't-
reported.
Right.
I just got something from the head of the, what's her name was doing,
Yeah.
a whole new study. Here's the woman who's, I can't remember.
What study?
The one,
Just one last
about
topic
the,
is
the
ideas for
bikes
future
and,
agenda.
and,
items, if you have it.
and,
If
and
not,
and the regulation of them.
Been generating those for the last hour.
Yeah, I mean, there's also this other report called the speed. what's it called?
Yeah,
The what?
The what?
speed report,
Yeah,
how to speed up approvals.
yes, exactly. So, which I can also send around.
We just.
Didn't we alter
amended-
that
We just
through-
amended the,
It's got other
Yeah, it's,
ideas in it, it's not just about ULURP and zoning, but it's
What is
also
what's
about
amended?
lots of other processes.
Speeding up
Yeah,
the
here's the
approval.
package of
The
reforms.
review and approval, it's
If
covers the
if
whole.
it affects the buildings department, that'd be great.
Did-
It does.
Didn't the city of Yes have a lot of?
Yeah.
Yes.
Speed it up? Does
Yeah.
this correlate? I mean, do they?
Same
but
people
those
were working on it.
Speeding up.
I mean,
zoning
that's not
only.
a DCP report, but the same the same person who was in charge of that.
But they wouldn't be
was in
at
charge of
Oxford,
some of
then.
the others. No, they should be.
Now, that would be
Okay.
subject to an intern to get the teeth into
What?
speeding up the approval process, looking into that.
I mean, it's not, it includes a lot of other agencies and it's not
Yeah.
focused on zoning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Like the stormwater pollution prevention plan,
I
it's
don't see
like
that as a
DEP
project for
moving
us.
things forward too.
Mhm.
Everything that holds up housing and construction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's rather comprehensive. So,
The funny thing, when we were dealing with
I know, it's really annoying.
What?
Once again, a lot of these
Scam.
ideas have been floating
Hello?
around for a very, very long time.
when we were just
Who's this?
at the library, in the initial presentations on the Bloomingdale Library,
Oh, it's
Issue.
election.
they, in the first session, they said, we asked, why not HPD, why EDC? And they said, because it'll take HPD 9 to 10 years. And in the second meeting, they showed the timeline, and it was 9 years of the EDC.
yeah,
So I said that was why it wasn't done, but here it's the same time. Ooh, they felt, they got caught, whatever, there was another reason for it, but it certainly wasn't to cut down on the time. Okay, and cutting down the time on development,
Yep.
that produces housing, in this case would produce housing if it's done
And one of the
properly.
problems there was people that represented EDC were not fully versed in the process. Fully versed is a state of the art term of, you don't know what
Yes,
you're doing.
yes.
any
Okay.
other agenda items to propose?
Are
We'll
we,
work on these for the fall, obviously.
are we almost done? I know.
I think that's two goodies.
I've been kind of intrigued by the conversation about our landmark districts and
About what?
about our landmark districts and whether there is a way consistent with values and everything else to address some of the fact that we have so much landmark material in our district that it makes the places we have for upzoning or doing major construction, very, very few. And I just wondered whether have we ever thought about what is possible in, I'm not suggesting we do anything to alter individual landmark buildings. Some of the districts have buildings that are pretty mediocre in them.
I don't think we should do that.
And
But they're in the landmark.
I don't think so.
They're not historic.
they're covered by
Yeah.
landmarks.
But if they're non-contributing, such as the ABC building that
Right.
been demolished,
Yeah,
then that's not an issue. And if they are contributing, that's a totally different story. That's why we have landmark.
Sometimes landmarks let you, I mean, the process is slower. So when the city did the rezoning of Soho, like 4 years ago, entire area was historic district, or lots of different historic districts. And so I think that's exactly right. When like landmarks identified all of the buildings that weren't contributing, and those like had no restrictions.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
that's a-
ones that,
From the historic district?
no, they're still part of the historic district, but the understanding, and you'd still have to go through the landmarks process, which is in and of itself probably,
Honors.
onerous and a thing that discourages development, but it didn't prevent, it didn't prevent development simply because it was in an historic district. It made
And as,
And it didn't prevent an upzoning, it just made it a little bit more complex.
As
What
we s-
Landmarks wants is they want that jurisdiction over what goes in there, so it
Right.
contributes to this.
Yeah.
right,
Right,
and
but they identified upfront what was not contributing, and those they sort of said
They, the LPC did.
LPC,
yeah,
did,
and that's
LPC
pretty
staff
much
did.
identified in every designation of a district, but individual buildings are so identified.
Is that something they did unique to Soho, or is that?
Well, I think
something that
Soho was the
exists?
first major historic district
But-
that had an
What
upzoning.
we found recently, the Excel,
We could ask
the
Mark
Excel
about it,
application
but he's.
to demolish
Yeah.
and replace the ABC office building, that was non-controversial, that what would be replacing it was the issue, but not
Oh, yeah.
Not
put it,
the,
because not
Right.
whether it could be replaced. By the way, for those of you who still have a residual interest in this long-going topic, tomorrow morning at
Yes, tomorrow
9:30,
morning.
LPC again has West Park on it.
Except that I'm told, I hear that it's the attorney for the committee and there are no public
Oh,
statements.
no, it hasn't been public, it's been public meeting, not hearing for a long
Right,
time.
yeah, but tomorrow, the guy who is the lawyer for the district is going to be talking about the church.
Yeah.
Again,
But, and
but I'm not allowing any comment from the public.
that's been true for successive.
My prediction is that in another 2 years, they're gonna landmark the scaffolding.
I think that's a great idea.
30 years coming up.
I mean, it's been there for as long as I can remember. Yeah, it adds to the,
It's a
uniqueness of
cultural
it.
icon.
Yeah,
it's good when it rains.
We're clearly,
Yes,
There's something there.
That's
Yeah.
move we.
okay. All in favor?
yeah.
Aye,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
See you
Thank you.
August
Everybody.
19th.
Except for August 19th.
Yes.
Except for August 19th. Yes, enjoy your summers.
Don't hold your breath.
Just reading something about Mount Dillon